Carnival Mardi Gras 1 year later, is it still as good? Let's find out. A year ago, I took one of the early sailings of the Carnival Mardi Gras, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite cruises I've taken. Loved the brand new XL class of Carnival ship. It was marvelous. Not a ton of people, just, post-pandemic, maybe late pandemic. I just got off the Carnival Mardi Gras 3 days ago. So how was it? Some people have talked about cutbacks. People are saying, well, maybe the newness has worn off the ship. Were the cutbacks noticeable? What did I think? So this is the second time in my life I've ever taken the same ship twice. Years ago, I took the Carnival Splendor 2 times, but completely different itineraries. I first went on Long Beach, the Pacific Coast, and then I took it years later from New York. So a little bit apples to oranges. This time, however, I have taken the exact same itinerary on the exact same ship and only 1 year apart. You might be wondering why. Well, initially, I was supposed to go with my friends and my husband on the Carnival Jubilee on its inaugural transatlantic sailing. Very excited. I wanted to show off the new XL class of ship to my friends and to my husband, who has always thought he would not like a larger ship. He's very at home in smaller boutique ships and the smaller Carnival ships. But I thought, this would be a great introduction for all of them to a larger ship. We looked, we had got a big credit when they canceled the Jubilee earlier this year. And we wanted to go either on the Celebration or the Mardi Gras, and we were freezing to death in Tennessee and also Idaho. So we wanted to book something as quickly as possible. We looked kind of end of January. My mother had passed early January. I just wasn't in any headspace to plan a cruise. So we went, and the only thing we could find that was a date we could all go and a price we all wanted was the exact same itinerary on the Carnival Mardi Gras that I took last year. So I'm like, well, I had a great time. I'd love to show it off to my friends. Let's go. Now, one caveat, I did take this trip during spring break, which is not my preferred time usually to take a trip. In another video, we're going to talk about sailing during spring break and would I do it again. But for now, we're just going to talk about Mardi Gras and how different has it been. So for my first Mardi Gras trip, it was really kind of a special trip. The pandemic was waning. We did have to mask up a bit. There was testing, but there were a lot fewer people on the ship. And it was just so exciting to be back on the ship, to be on the Mardi Gras, since it was such a new type of ship for Carnival. Magical, absolutely fantastic cruise. And I was a little worried, was I going to be able to recreate that, or was I going to end up disappointed on my second time around? Right there you have a big difference with the ship not being at pandemic times. This was both good and bad. Of course, the good part of it was we didn't have to have any kind of mask or testing. It was just all of those distancing, all of that was gone for this trip. The second thing, which was not as good, was that last year, I think we were just under 5,000 people on the sailing we were on, and we were at a very full 6,281 for this sailing. So big difference there, very leery about lines and crowding. The amazing thing about all of those people on the ship were that the lines were actually shorter this time. Carnival has an amazing way of managing people and lines. Never a line to get off the ship. All 3 ports we went to, we walked right off, right on, and we actually got off at very popular times. One was during a 9 a.m. for a very popular excursion time when we were in Amber Cove, and in Grand Turk we got off early. A lot of people were getting off to enjoy the beach, so we loved that getting on and off felt like you were on a much smaller ship. Also, the lines for food. I never saw a line for the buffet. Everything kept moving. Also, late night pizza. I like late night pizza after I've been gambling in the casino. And last time, the lines could be quite long, like 15, 20 minutes sometimes. Well, this time, my goodness, they had 7 pizza chefs one night. Most of the nights they had additional personnel who were sort of like line wranglers, who were between the line of people wanting pizza and the line of the chefs. And I had absolutely no wait, and wonderful with 6,000 people to not have to wait at all. We always could find a seat at the Alchemy Bar, one of our favorite bars. As you know, on many ships, that's very crowded. We usually could find seats at the comedy club with a short wait. You had to get online, but I don't think we ever waited more than 10 or 15 minutes. I remember years back, I was on the Carnival Dream, and it was a really long wait. If you didn't get there 30 minutes before, you didn't get in to see the comedy show. And there's no problem with that on the Mardi Gras, even with the greater amount of people, because they have so many comedy shows. Additionally, center stage. Well, last year, center stage, all of the shows were new. And even though there were fewer people, it was very hard to get a seat, especially the really popular shows like Celestial Strings and Voodoo Moon. In fact, we never got a seat to see Voodoo Moon last year. Well, this year, just a little more aware, but also I think there were a lot of repeat cruisers, a lot of cruisers with little, smaller children. In any event, we had no trouble getting seats to all of the shows at center stage. You do have to get there a little bit in advance, but this was never a problem. We would just bring our drinks or get our drinks while we were waiting and just talk to our friends and to other cruisers. I'll tell you what was super crowded though, the Lido deck. Getting a seat on the Lido, the loungers, it was just like impossible. You really had to wake up early or find someone who'd left. There's still chair hogs. And when you have that many people, especially with families, very, very hard to lounge out on the Lido. Also very hard and harder than last year in both instances to get a seat on the Serenity deck. Just very, very popular to find a lounger. Just more difficult this cruise because of additional people. However, there were always options. There's little out of the way places like Summer Landing, Tides Pool, where it's not quite as crowded. So if you know the ship very well, it wasn't a huge problem, but I definitely noticed the difference this year. So food. People have been talking about the cutbacks to food because, Carnival had to tighten its belt a little bit. Like everyone else, they have been subjected to inflation. This is a big difference from last year when we cruised, but it's not particular to the Carnival Mardi Gras or even to Carnival. But all of the ships have been cutting back because they have to be raising prices. And in order to make a profit with the extra inflation, there have been cutbacks. So I did notice cutbacks to the food. For me, the largest cutback that affected me were the Sea Day brunch menu cutbacks. I have always loved the Sea Day brunch on Carnival, one of my favorite main dining room meals at sea. But they kind of cut out everything I like to eat. So no chia pudding, no frittata, no superfood salmon, salad, just all of that stuff is gone. And there's still good things to eat, but I guess I'm a little quirky with what I like to eat. I'm a bit of a foodie, and I really miss that. So much so that after going the first day, I did not go back for the second and third sea days. I decided, well, I don't need to waste my calories there if I'm not getting something a little special. So I didn't. A lot of days I just got coffee at Emerald's and the vegan juices and called it a day and saved my calories. Another place where I saw cuts to the food were in the main dining room, the lobster. I didn't like it. The last two cruises on Carnival, including on the Mardi Gras last year, the lobster was delicious. It was perfectly cooked, tasty. I got two of them. I really enjoyed them. This year, however, it was salty and tiny, and I didn't even want a second one, which is unlike me because lobster is my favorite food. There was good lobster at the paid restaurants at Rudy's Sea Grill and at the teppanyaki, for instance. You can always go to the Shack. But if you're looking for good lobster, at least on this cruise on the main dining room, it was not there. They did, however, have good prime rib for the formal night. It was delicious and fine. I also noticed little things like I like the fried oysters, and they were like very bready, not as large as they used to be. So there are a lot of things like that you'd only notice these things, except maybe the lobster. But if you had cruised a lot with Carnival and really knew the menu and the quality of food. So that may or may not affect your cruise, but it was definitely a difference from last year. As for the cruise directors, both fantastic. Last year I had the Flying Scotsman. He was wonderful, so talented in singing and led great deck parties. This year we had Kindle Fire, and first time I've ever had her. Absolutely loved her. This girl has so much energy. It just really set the tone for the ship. It was lots of fun with the families that were on board, and I just adored her. She made the deck parties a blast. Now, the parties were a little different. Like last year, there were fewer children, and so a lot of the parties were more adults and line dancing. This time, there were a little more competition, like at the 80s Rock and Glow, lots and lots of kids. So a different flavor, but still very enjoyable. And there were some new parties this year that were not on the Mardi Gras last year. For instance, they had the silent party. I love those. That's where everyone wears headphones. There were two DJs playing, and the DJs play different tracks, and everyone's on a different track on their headphones. You can adjust it. People are watching, and it's just everyone's dancing, but no one's hearing the music except the people with the headphones. And some people are over here dancing to rap, and some people over here are dancing to pop, and it's really, really fun. So they had that in the Limelight Lounge this time. They also had a Motown party, which was great because they used the center stage. And I always felt that the Mardi Gras just really lacks a little bit of dance space on the Lido. And so having this party in the center stage solved that problem, and everyone was able to enjoy it. There were people like singing and doing moves on all three levels, lots of room cleared right on floor 6 for everyone to dance. So that was really great. Another thing that hasn't changed on the Mardi Gras is the amount of live music all over the ship. You can find live music at Summer Landing. You can find it at the Brassonolia. You can find it over by the Fortune Teller Bar. There's just so much live music going on all the time. Steel drums up at the Lido. I really love that. I love that about Carnival, and I appreciated that that had not changed at all. And as for the shows at Center Stage, they are still marvelous. I finally got to see Voodoo Moon, and it is second to me only to Celestial Strings, which I went back for on this trip. And I also love that they have usually 7 pieces live music playing at Center Stage. You've got your band and your 3-part brass, and it adds so much to all the shows and activities that happen there. So before I give you my verdict, I'd like to ask you to hit that subscribe button and please help me grow this channel. We're brand new, only have a few videos out, but there's lots more to come. Hit the like button as well. All of this will help us out as we're growing the channel. So what's my verdict? Mardi Gras 1 year later, was it as good? It was not as good. It was better. I loved the vibe. I think Kindle Fire just set such a fun vibe for the ship. I enjoyed the fact that there were so many people, and yet I did not have to stand in line for like anything. The entertainment is as good, and no masks. There were no pandemic problems to worry about. So the Mardi Gras continues to be one of my favorite ships in the Carnival fleet, as well as one of my favorite ships I've ever been on. I'm looking forward to trying the Jubilee next year. I have not yet been on the Celebration, but I'd love to give that a try out of Miami. So I have a lot of content coming up that I'd like to just give you a little bit of preview on. We're going to be talking about cruising during spring break. Yes or no? Is this a good idea? I'll let you know what I thought. Also, I just came off a 7-day cruise. I ate wonderful food, and yet I did not gain weight. I bet you want to know how that's possible. We're going to talk about that in an upcoming video. We're going to talk about eating vegan on a Carnival ship. I was with a vegan friend, and I've got the full scoop on that for you. On the entertainment on the Mardi Gras, we'll talk about the food on the Mardi Gras. We're going to talk about the ports. I will tell you all about Nassau, Amber Cove of the Dominican Republic, and Grand Turk. Then there's an Ocean Suite room tour, and I'm going to also do a preview on the Carnival Venezia that I'll be on in less than 2 months. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for cruising with Dee. We'll see you soon.